Welcome back, everybody. Matt with Richardson Performance. Welcome to episode 2 of what we're going to call the Richardson Performance Podcast. Now, here we're going to talk about just a quick recap of the last video. Everything from training to lifestyle, nutrition, rehab, business, relationships, any social aspects, and everything in between. Whatever it is that comes to mind, we will be talking about, whether it's coming up in a session, in my own training, or whatnot. Anything I can find that is on the cusp that I can offer to give you guys value. That's what we're going to talk about here. So welcome back to episode 2. Today, we're going to talk about athletic training. I posted a video on TikTok about athletic training. Specifically, what this was focused on is developing your jumping ability. So we're going to jump higher, that's the goal, and we're trying to get bouncier as well. We're going to cover everything from the type of strengths that you need to develop. Yes, strengths is plural. There are different types of strength. Some of the training applications that you can do. I'll throw a plug to go check on my TikTok to see some visual with that. But let's just talk athletic training and kind of go from there. I hope you guys find some value in this. If you are wanting to learn to squat and develop your legs, this is something that you'd want to know too. But just overall, I feel like everybody, fitness is so aesthetic and vain these days. Whereas your health and your longevity really do have a big correlation with your performance, of course. And so your performance then, the flip of that has a lot of correlation with your longevity. So if you can perform better and stay athletic, you stay younger longer. So without further ado, let's talk about athletic training. When you're wanting to jump higher, the biggest thing I feel like, the problem is with a lot of strength coaches is that weightlifting definitely gets newbies to get more athletic and gets them to jump higher at first. But the problem is that with that, so this is going to be developing what we're going to call strength number 1. There's 3 types. So we're going to talk about 3 types of strength today. Number 1 is limit strength. So when you're first starting lifting weights, you're going to get some newbie gains, and you're going to jump higher because of that. That being said, over time, what happens if you are not patterning the correct positions, foot placement, the right, what would you say, pressure on your feet being put in the right place, ankle being inverted or everted, how your hip should internally or externally rotate and when, creating torque through the body. What happens is that you actually instill bad movement patterns in your body, and then when you put excessive speed to the movement and stop and start, like running up 2-foot plant and then jumping up, you're now in a suboptimal position that then puts the stress and distributes it into your joints, tendons, connective tissues instead of your muscles. So what happens over time is you start debilitating yourself, you get into knee pain, you have injuries, that sort of thing, and you actually don't get more athletic. So strength training is all good if we know how to use it right. And that's what a lot of this is going to be about today. I think a lot of people can find value from that and just understanding that and developing your own athleticism. So limit strength, for me, number 1, as far as if I'm trying to jump higher, especially off of 2 feet, increase your deep back squat. When I'm developing the squat, I made a video today about patterning the squat. So I like to start, especially kids today and athletes. Typically your athletes are younger, and all of us. I'm sitting in a chair right now. These kids are getting a ton of desk time. They are getting a ton of tech time. It's just not like it used to be, to where I'm getting stiffer and stiffer kids the more that time goes on, it seems, and that they're not able to hit the positions that they should. I mean, I'm talking, man, you have someone try to bend over into a hip hinge and try to hit 90, and their back looks like a moon. I mean, they aren't loading their hamstrings one bit because they are so tight from sitting all the time. They can't get their pelvis to tilt whatsoever, and they're just bending their spine. So when I get people are like, hey, you help so-and-so, or my son or daughter's been watching your videos and they want to increase their vertical. We want to come to you for that. And then, we come in and they're expecting to do all this strength training and whatnot. And I'm like, we have so much mobility and postural work, if you will, to even be able to access the position, because you're trying to jump right now and your pelvis is tucked up underneath you, so you're not even loading your glutes. I mean, if we can't even hit the position, we have no no possibility of ever getting peak performance or even optimal, like even any performance. Really, we're just going to injure ourselves. We're putting the stress in the wrong place. So with weightlifting, I like to pattern it. We got to make sure we can hit the positions first. That's the stuff that people don't understand. Literally, your feet are everything in athleticism. And I mean, I got people coming in, feet all duck-footed out. Like, man, you are not going to run and jump like that. So why the hell are you squatting like that? The positions you hit in the weight room are the positions that you're going to hit on the field, period. And as a strength coach, if you don't think that you have influence on that, that you're influencing your athletes and how they move on the court or on the field, you don't have a clue. I'm just being honest, and I'm not saying that I know everything, but so far in my experience of doing this for myself for the last 8 years and being able to work with countless athletes in person, via video, online, that you gotta understand that how you position yourself in a high neural drive environment, which is going to be weightlifting, that your brain is going to go to that when it matters most on the court. And to back that, I hate all the sciencey shit sometimes, but I'm just going to go with this. When a kid plays video games a lot, and we get this sort of posture, and so we're all roll forward, head forward, and whatnot, that is a very passive stimulation, and they are absolutely adapted to it. So if we're gonna see that and think that we're not gonna adapt to our training, you're out of your mind. So we're gonna pattern with a goblet squat. I like to pattern with a goblet squat. It's gonna allow you to stay more upright and whatnot. And as we progress to that, then we can start loading the back squat. That's where people first get it wrong, because having a barbell on your back is going to require a lot more mobility out of your ankles and out of your hips, which again, like I'm saying, everyone is really tight, for lack of a better term. So we got to make sure that we're patterning and grooving this in a very optimal area to where this becomes just subconscious and you can hit it rep after rep. Once we can do that, what I like to do is I like to see my kids and my clients be able to hit I use this goal for adults too. It shows a lot of good upper body strength of being able to, or upper back strength, being able to posture up in a goblet squat with about half of your body weight, and hitting that for 25 plus reps. If you can do that, we can start back squatting. So until then, there's no need to back squat. And people force feed the back squat all the time. It's like, why use something where there are some drawbacks that's going to compress your spine, when you don't need it? Back squats for one reason, that you've been training long enough and you're adapted enough that you need the load, because that's the plus of a back squat, that we can easily put more load on it, and basically the amount of load we can put on it is infinite. So for me, after training as long as I have now, I'm not going to get a lot out of taking that 100 pounds in a goblet squat and patterning that. Now, can I build some muscle with that, get some hypertrophy gains? Sure, absolutely, and build structure. That's what that's about. But we're talking about, how do we build limit strength? So how do I get horsepower to have more potential at having force to put into the ground, which then, if I can communicate and translate that, which we're going to get into, then it will translate into you jumping higher. So I hope you're with me so far. We pattern the goblet squat, and then we use the back squat once we need it. And that's going to take a pretty well-developed athlete for the most part to be able to need that. The back squat's going to give us horsepower, but here's the thing, is that how you do it matters. And the studies show, every recent study, if you're, for lack of a better term, if you're doing half reps, you're going to get half results. And yes, I'm coming at the 90-degree squatters. If you are trying to get athletic, full reps are where it's at. Squat low, jump high, period, end of report. There's something to it. I don't know what it is. Bending your joints, full range of motion. I think a lot of it's a knee extension strength, for the most part, and we don't get into those lower quad muscles if we don't hit depth in a squat. But squat deep if you want to get more athletic. And in my mind, we're stretching, loading more muscle. Yeah, the load might not be as great as you could with 9 degrees, but the studies that I have read, we had some quarter squatters, and then we have some full squatters. And so they tested their vertical jumps at the beginning of the study, and at the end of the study, the half squatters, their vertical jump actually went down, and their deep squat strength went down. The deep squatters, their vertical jump increased. I want to say it was something like in the 20% range, 14% range. I don't know how trained these athletes are. What I'm trying to say is that there's something to squatting deep in your brain, and how that neurally translates to you jumping, that squatting deep is the key. That's, to me, that's the king of all exercises as far as creating horsepower. That being said, we got to know how to use it properly. There are some drawbacks to it. When you're athletic, the thing is too, is you got to minimize. I want to do the least amount of weightlifting possible to try to jump higher. And that being said, because weightlifting is going to make you tired, it requires a lot of neural drive, right? So fatigue is not our friend, because we're trying to play a sport and we want to be fresh and have pop when we're trying to jump higher. So that being said, the other thing is that you're typically only going to get away with about 6 weeks of good heavy training. I do a lot of cluster training now, and I get good results with that. That's something I wouldn't have someone who isn't trained for at least 5 years do. That being said, it's very important to know. I mean, you see a lot of powerlifters that end up getting injured. It's just a lot of stress in your body. Even if you're doing everything right, there's still only so much stress that you can handle, especially then you're putting a lot of speed to it and doing your jumping practice, your plyometrics, yada, yada. We don't want to acclimate fatigue. That's going to be a detriment to our performance. And we don't want to injure ourselves. So we have to really make sure we're cycling things and balancing things. And honestly, every circumstance is different. Every athlete's different. You, as a coach, you kind of just get used to reading your athletes and knowing what that is, but your health drives your performance. So I never sacrifice that and put our health on the chopping block to try to add some horsepower. So limit strength, number one. Limit means we have no time constraints. We're moving a heavy load, slow. Now, that's something else to keep in mind. The contraction that's happening in your squat is so much slower than the fraction of a second that's happening when you have a stretch shortening cycle when you load up and jump. So what happens if you weightlift too much, you start to divert your fibers to being a little, yes, they're type 2. Weightlifting is type 2 fibers, sprinting is type 2 fibers, jumping is type 2 fibers, excuse me. But if you lift too much, you end up diverting your fibers too far down the spectrum to being slow twitch, and that's where a lot of people mess up, is they just strength train. If you strength train, you stop playing your sport, or you're not hitting your plyometrics and keeping your bounce up and jumping, what happens is that you just get strong and slow. So the key is can we maximize strength and horsepower while still keeping our fast twitch fibers and having that pop and acceleration that we need. Once we built our limit strength, I typically think something optimal to shoot for girls is like 1 to 1.5 times your body weight in a back squat, in a deep back squat. And for boys, I really like, if you're really trained, to try to get up there in that like 2 times your body weight range. That's going to be like you're starting to hit, not your ceiling, but I mean, strength is not an issue when you're hitting that. I mean, that's a lot for a back squat. It really is. So from there, we got to get into our explosive training. So I mean, that's pretty obvious. It's our jumping. We gotta jump, and specifically, you need to play your sport if you have an application for that. But if you're just trying to get athletic, have pop that then translates into just being a badass. To be honest, I mean, I really don't know who wants to own a Ferrari that's got a V6 in it. And that's that's one of the things with fitness that I'm talking about, is why wouldn't you want to have the same bit, like your aesthetics should match your abilities, and vice versa. Your abilities should match your aesthetics. So I want a car that looks good and looks slick and sleek, but I want something that will perform, man. So I kind of want to push that on everyone. Just something to keep in mind. It's not all about vanity and about looks. And I think if you start to prioritize your abilities and just focus on that, you'll have a lot more fun with your training, and you'll be surprised that your results, I think, will be a lot better, because you're not going to be focusing on this isolation sort of thing, and you're going to do something that will actually push you and that's measurable. So we have our limit strength, horsepower, no time constraint. Now we're getting into our explosive strength. So explosive strength is going to be where it's like a standing vertical jump, right? It's a single leg jump. Anything where we have no time constraint. So it's basically a squat that has to be fast. Essentially, we're using stretch shortening cycle. Time is a factor. We're trying to take that force production that we've developed now, that potential force, and we're trying to use it in an acceleratory manner, if that's a word, to where we use it fast. We want to use that force fast and be able to access it quickly to apply it to the ground to then be more athletic. That's where weightlifting is just a tool for athleticism. And without training athleticism, then we just have strong and slow. If we train the two in conjunction, Now we're talking, we have the force production and the horsepower and the acceleration together, which equals performance. From there, we get into reactive strength, which is what I think is one of the most neglected things in athleticism. This is going to be things, if you look on my channel, on my Instagram, on my TikTok, it's going to be plate hops. Anything where we're getting really bouncy, it's going to be stiffness in the Achilles and the feet and the ankles, and being able to cut and just have that sort of reactive quickness to the ground where we're never really having to absorb a lot. It's rhythm jumps where we're jumping and landing kind of 70% as high as we can. But we're focusing on having quick ground contact time. That reactive strength really plays a big role because you need that in every sport. We need change of direction, and in jumping, we need stop start. So think about like a volleyball approach, for instance, on a hitter. We're gonna take speed into it, and then that horizontal speed as we're running up and we do our plant, we got to take that speed then and then gather it up, and a lot of that's going to be used in the upper body and whatnot, but our ankles, our feet, our knees got to be able to stop and handle that forward and then to translate it up. So reactiveness, explosiveness, limit strength. We got to get stronger, we got to get more explosive, and we got to get bouncy. And then the fourth one of those that I like to add in is that make sure that you are training specifically to what you want to do. If you want to dunk a basketball, you need to be training going up with a ball in your hand. It is way different. I'm telling you, there is a skill to putting a ball in the hoop, especially if you got small hands. You can't palm it. You got to figure some things out. You got to feel that going up with the ball. Now you don't got your arms to help you. Your arms are about 13% of your jump. So we start taking these factors away, or like volleyball, for instance. Now we have the timing of it, right? So that's going to be an issue. You can't just go jump balls to the walls when you got to time it and hit a ball with it. So make sure that you're training whatever you're wanting to do specifically. I hope that helps, guys. That kind of gives you a rundown of verbally of how to increase your vertical jump. If you want to see something more visual to that, check out my TikTok. The video is called the best video on jumping higher. We're looking about 12,000 views on that right now. It's starting to kick off pretty good for a long video. Usually it's kind of that short stuff that goes well on there. So anyways, the video's been well received. It's good. I think you guys can find a lot of value out of it. Here I wanted to have something that's a little more spread out and detail oriented. I like we kind of talked about the back squat as being like our king of getting horsepower. With your strength training, so with that limit strength stuff, all the weightlifting you want to do, we got to keep in mind that the back squat is something we just kind of care about, like high output, low reps essentially, and what is your strength to weight ratio with that. Remember, fat doesn't fly, but it's important. One of the things I kind of fall into is not doing enough bodybuilding, if you will, with my legs, which is going to be like hitting some RDLs in that 8 to 10 rep range or more, walk lunge, for instance, stuff that's going to burn and hurt and make your legs grow. Bulgarian split squat, single leg movements, like single leg hamstring curls, working out some imbalances, just some things to build structure. We got to understand now, we're building this big block engine. We're like supercharger, more horsepower, whatnot. We got to make sure that we upgrade the nuts and bolts to our car to handle that horsepower now, right? That's where good movement training is going to come in, which is a whole nother subject. And building structure so that our tendons get thicker, our muscles are resilient, just we're getting blood through them, and just doing movement, that kind of slow, heavy stuff seems to balance and make you feel good to do your jumping and all your plyometric and reactive strength training. So it all has to work together, and I guess that's kind of the conclusion of this video, is that athleticism is like a car that has 3 different gas pedals, a clutch, and a brake. You gotta know when to press one, let off, press the other. It's definitely a very delicate balance, and the only way to learn is to do it, to practice on yourself, to listen to videos like this, and just kind of experiment and again listen to your own body, because it's all very individual from person to person depending on your circumstances. Some kids are not sleeping enough. Others might have joint mobility issues, like we got stiff ankles, whatever it might be. nutrition deficiencies, not sleeping enough. Some of my kids are such go-getters. It's like we're practicing so often and so hard. I got to make sure that I do the very least amount to get the maximum result with them. I don't want to contribute to what all the other coaches that they're seeing every day are doing, which is like just basically sucking them dry of their athleticism because they're just using their energy. So remember, athletic training is not P90X or CrossFit. We need to rest and we need to be fresh. We're looking for high output, low volume. We're not looking to, jump 10 times at 60%. We're looking to take our training, and if we're doing a set of 5 and some plyometrics like a seated box jump, for instance, we're looking to jump, reset, take a breath after we hit our 5 reps, and we're trying to go for that 100% each rep. We take 2 minutes. We want to be fresh. We're trying to take our our upper end of our ability and move it up 1 or 2%. So I hope that helps, guys. That is my rundown on athletic training, the 3 types of strength, being specific in whatever your task is, particularly in jumping higher is what this was pertaining to, and then also breaking down strength training and how it can be a detriment to you if you don't know what positions that you're trying to hit and drive into your body neurally, and how to use strength training as a means of structural integrity development and rehab. So I hope that helps, guys. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 2 of the Richardson Performance Podcast. Excuse me. Glad to have you guys here. This has been long awaited, heavily requested. I cannot tell you how many hundreds of TikTok comments I've got telling me that I look like Elon Musk and that I need to start a YouTube channel. I went live on there and we've had some crazy stuff happen. Like, we've had thousands of viewers. It's been awesome for a small 70,000 following. It's not that big really, but I'm very appreciative of everybody. We definitely have the people that are on this channel aren't on here to, on any of my social media feeds, on there to look at dumb, funny shit. But they're on there. We're on here for something serious, to develop ourselves and to learn things and just be at our very best. So I appreciate all you guys. Thank you for tuning in to episode 2. This is going to be dropped on Wednesday. We're planning on doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday drops. I appreciate you guys very much. Matt with RPT, out.